Hello, I'm Brian Murphy with A Action Realty Inspection Services, and today I have Scott with us, and we're going to be talking about foundations and foundation readings and foundation performance in the state of Texas. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, Scott, is just foundations in general. In the state of Texas, everybody's really worried about the soil,
Period.
yeah, and how much the soil, expands and contracts and foundation performance in this particular soil. And a lot of people, when they're purchasing homes, they get really nervous about it, and they see one small crack in the house and they freak out and think they have a bad foundation.
Yeah, and cracks really scare a lot of people, and a lot of times the cracks don't mean anything other than cosmetic issues.
Yeah. So I was at a house yesterday, and I call them architectural cracks. Basically, it's where structural loads from the roof structure are pushing down on the ceiling or on a wall or something like that, and you get a small joint crack. So when you get these small joint cracks, you typically in the seam, those are real common to find in just about any house that's 3, 4, 5 years
Yeah,
old.
any kind of vaulted ceiling or different heights in the ceiling normally cause the joint cracks as well.
So not all cracks are bad.
Not all cracks are bad. No, absolutely.
So it just
Most cracks are good.
yeah.
They're not going to hurt you. But
Right. So, so on in general, is there like a perfect foundation out there?
no, never. Never
Okay.
a perfect foundation.
So, have you ever measured a foundation from like day one, where it's you're in a frame inspection and you're measuring the foundation where it's just concrete, no floor covering, and is it perfectly flat?
No, even on a phase one inspection before they pour, we can measure the boards, the brick ledge, and they're never perfectly flat.
Yeah. So my worst one I've done is 4 inches out of level from front to back. If they would have poured the foundation that day, it would already been 4 inches out of level from day one.
I think mine's 2.5 or 3 inches.
Is
Yeah.
one you've measured that
Yeah,
before?
I measure every phase one, so
So whenever we're looking at foundations, let's say a 10-year-old foundation, one of the things that you really have to keep in consideration is maybe part of that, it not being level, is it was as built that way as well, right?
yeah. Actually, one of the guys called me yesterday, and it was 3 inches off, but it was gradual 3 inches, and it was as built. There was no signs of movement or anything at all. No signs of stress.
So what are some of the stress indicators that might indicate a foundation?
Freeze board separation, window separation. The expansion joints on the side of the house have really opened up either at the top or bottom. Some step cracking in the brick outside. Remember, most straight line cracks are thermal expansion cracks because the older houses don't have an expansion joint, and that's why they're cracking.
Okay. So it's not just the numbers on the foundation then. When you take a foundation elevation reading, you put a device down, whether it's a zip level, whether it's a laser level, something like that, and then you go around and measure, and you have a 0 point, and let's say it's 2 inches out of level. What else would you say is 2 inches out of level? I need work, or do you use other indicators as well?
Absolutely use other indicators. You can't just go by off the level. Again, outside, you're looking for window separation, freeze board separation, deflection cracks, some big joint cracks on the inside. But just because it says it's 2 inches out doesn't necessarily mean foundation work is needed at all.
Yeah. So when it comes to foundations, one of the things that they use is what's called L over 360. I think that term is misinterpreted a lot,
A lot.
and it's misused by foundation repair companies.
A lot.
Well,
Yes.
so there's a lot of houses out there that have foundation work that really should have never had foundation work in the first place.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Mm.
And you got to remember, in a real estate transaction, you have a buyer and a seller. The buyer thinks it needs foundation work. And then
So they had somebody tell them, "Hey, this is out of level. You need foundation work."
correct. And then the seller wants to sell the house. So that's perfect storm for them to do the foundation work, regardless if it needed it or not.
So you have this person in the middle, this middleman that comes in and says, "Hey, you need foundation work." And then you have somebody wanting to sell the house. You have a buyer that says, "I've been told it needs work, and I'm not buying the house until it needs work." So it's like you said, it's the perfect storm.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you get a house that's in a real estate transaction that ends up getting foundation work it should have never had in the first place.
Yeah. And you see that a lot.
Yeah, and so that kind of leads up to there's a lot of houses that get foundation work that they should have never had in the first place.
Probably more houses didn't need it than needed it,
Yeah.
truthfully.
So this L over 360, when I was saying that it gets misinterpreted, it's basically 1 inch over 30 linear feet. And so some people think that if it's just 1 inch out of level from any point, I need foundation work. So that's not really the case.
No, not at all.
Okay, so also it builds up as well because L over 360 is 1 inch over 30 linear feet. But if the foundation's 90 feet long, then it's really 3 inches. You're allowed 3 inches. So a lot of people kind of look at, oh man, it's an inch out of level. I need to do something. And it's hard to wrap your head around it that's only an inch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're going to spend $10,000 on foundation work to move your foundation that high.
Yeah. An inch.
Yeah, 1 inch.
1 inch. Yeah.
Yeah, which really doesn't improve the structure at all. It just basically they get something in their mind that they need when they actually
They get scared.
they get scared.
Nervous.
Another part of the L over 360 is a lot of people think it's 1 inch from front to back, right? And where a lot of people get this wrong, it's actually the deflection in the middle. That's where the measurement comes from, is this spot right here and not end to end.
Correct.
And so you can have a foundation that's 4 inches out of level, but still meets the engineering term of L over 360 because the center deflection is still within that 1 inch.
Right. So the foundation just kind of tilted a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's not out of level, meaning it's not deflected.
So
The difference there.
yeah, there is a big difference. So when it comes to deflection is one thing where we measure the middle, right? And do the elevation readings, L over 360. But then we have tilt, it's just completely different than deflection.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So-
Till it just moved one way or the other. And remember, in foundation, you can't fix high.
Yeah.
You can't lower a foundation.
Yeah, you don't go in and dig out the
Yeah.
dirt and tilt it back, right?
Yeah.
So what people think they need to do is actually raise the other side, which can actually cause more problems
Yeah.
in the house.
It can cause plumbing issues, cracking a drain line or a water line. And when you have a slab leak, you don't want that. That's quite a bit of money to
Yeah.
fix a slab
Yeah.
leak.
Yeah, so you have a foundation that doesn't have any problems, but if you go to try to fix it because you got something in your head or somebody told you there was something wrong, then you create problems.
More problems, yeah.
Yeah, so because if you try to lift something that really doesn't need to be lifted, but you're going to lift it anyways, you can separate the plumbing, like the waste pipes under the house. And then that causes actually more problems than trying to do the repair. It
Yes.
can be more expensive.
You got to remember, because if you do that, you got to take the flooring up, jackhammer it out, fix the plumbing, fill it back in, then new flooring. So if it's expensive flooring, or if it's, tile that you can't get anymore, you have to redo the whole floor.
Right.
You know?
And then let's say you don't want to go through the top, you go through the side and you tunnel. That's pretty darn
That's very
expensive.
expensive, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually had a slab leak not too long ago, or it was through the waste pipes, and they charged me $300 a linear foot to dig underneath the house, and it was 100 feet long.
Wow.
So it's $30,000 just to dig the tunnel, not to do the repair, just dig the tunnel and put it back.
And remember, when you dig the tunnel, you have to pack it as you come out, because if you just leave it loose, then you have foundation issues after they're done.
So when it comes to thinking about foundations and thinking about foundation repair, second opinions are all often really good, especially let's say you had a foundation repair company come out. The foundation repair company's not going to hammer down on them or pick on them, but the people that they send out are not engineers.
Not at all, no.
No, so they're more salespeople than they are engineers. And so you really want an engineer to take a look at the foundation.
I always recommend an engineer.
Yeah. And a good reason to have an engineer is because the engineers know the geographic area, they know the soils, they pay attention to the age of the home, normal wear and tear, and that type of stuff. They keep all that in consideration when they're rendering an opinion of whether it needs work or not.
Correct.
And when a foundation repair company comes in, they need to do a certain amount of work to meet a profit margin that needs to come
Right.
along with that work. So they may recommend more work than you actually need, where an engineer can come in and say, you just need 3 piers in this corner, where a foundation repair company may tell you 10 because they're trying to hit that,
Yeah.
that margin.
And, an engineer is a third party. So they come out, they tell you what they need, they walk away. Whether you do it or not, doesn't matter to them, so to speak. They're just there to give an opinion, tell you what to do or what you need. And then then you have to hire another foundation company to do it off their recommendations.
And then you get to pick and choose your own engineer as well.
And a lot of times the engineers will give you a plan to fix it as well.
Right. They'll give you drawings, they'll give you recommendations of what type of piers to put in and where they need to be located and how many.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they typically follow up after the repairs have been done.
The issue with an engineer versus a foundation company, the foundation company come out for free. An engineer costs, depending on the size of the home,
It could be
$400, $500, $600.
$600, could be $800.
Right.
But spending the $600 or $800 and then realizing you don't need the work
Yeah, it's way cheaper than
is
10 piers or 20 piers.
Yeah, it's way cheaper than $6,000
Yeah.
getting work that you didn't need in the first
And then
place.
if you ever get plumbing issues or something else happens, that's not covered under the foundation work. So that would be extra to you.
Or insurance companies.
Yeah.
So your homeowner's insurance typically do not. You may get a policy that will do it, but they only pay for ingress and egress, meaning getting to the problem and getting and putting the problem back together, but they don't actually pay for the repair.
They don't pay for the repair at all, no.
Yeah, and not all policies do it. So that's, again, you got to be careful whenever you're looking at, foundations. Do they need the work or do they not? So second opinions are always really good.
Great idea.
So during a real estate transaction, evaluating, as a home inspector, evaluating foundations is just like a general part of the inspection.
Remember, and it's required by TREC as well to give an opinion on the foundation.
So render an opinion on the foundation.
All inspectors have to do that.
Yeah. So, hiring an inspector that's experienced is very important.
Extremely important, yes.
It's because you have these new inspectors that haven't really experienced, haven't been exposed to a lot of houses
Right.
yet. And so they may make a bad call.
And nothing on new inspectors, but they go to class, they take the test, and then they're go in the world and do inspections. And sometimes they just kind of have no really on-the-job training at all.
Yeah.
They're just going by books.
Yeah. And what they've learned in the classroom or by an instructor, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So whenever we go in to do a home inspection, hiring an inspector that uses an actual zip level. That's kind of what our company uses, is a zip level. And
My dude's exactly what all the engineers use, foundation companies use. They all use a zip level.
and that's probably the best tool.
Correct.
So again, going in and getting the numbers are important, but being able to interpret the numbers.
Right.
And then piecing it together with the other components. So it's not just, hey, the foundation's 1.5 inches out of level, but there's no cracks in the walls. All the doors are square. All the windows are open and closing real good. So that's a good indicator that it was probably as built or maybe had some minor movement over the 10, 15 years of, that it's been there. But, other things that could look like foundation problem, a home may have foundation problems is a lot of people don't think about is, has there been recent heavy equipment work in the area? So let's say your house backs up to, let's say, a field.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they go in and they build this giant commercial building and they use all this heavy equipment to go in, and whether it's cranes, whether it's, front end loaders, whether it's dump trucks, and all this vibration happening that's your house is not used to having it.
Yeah.
Because all that heavy equipment moves the earth. you may not feel it, but it's moving the earth.
Absolutely.
And so next thing you know, you start getting cracks in the house and you get all concerned. So again, instead of calling a foundation repair company, really hire a third party that's separated from the repair company to come in and evaluate it. That way you're getting a non-biased, independent,
Third party. Yeah.
third party recommendation or evaluation.
Exactly.
Now, so when you're how hard is it for you to kind of explain to your clients whenever you've done an inspection and you have to tell them that it's an inch and a half out of level? Do they get like super concerned about it, or is it more in the delivery?
It's all in the delivery. Some do. Some people go in, they see a crack, they think the foundation's bad, and they're really worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could talk to them and explain everything to them, a lot of times it makes them happy and feel more comfortable.
Okay.
There is some clients that just want a foundation company or want a engineer.
Which is fine.
It's absolutely fine.
Yeah, because if it makes them feel better, that's good.
Right.
But again, kind of going back to hiring when you're getting a real estate transaction inspection, hiring a home inspection company that has good experience and uses the right equipment to be able to make the right calls.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then another thing people don't realize is our soils are so volatile. They move so much. When we have a really dry summer, everything shrinks. And a couple summers ago, it was 100 degrees
Forever.
It seemed like it 12 months, it really could have hurt a lot of the foundations. And then when we get a lot of rain.
You mean hurt foundations or just?
Move.
Move.
Yeah, a little bit of movement here or there. And then all of a sudden we get a lot of rain, and then the soil expands real fast. And that, from going from shrinking to expanding could cause movement, could cause cracks, but doesn't necessarily mean the foundation is bad. Remember, our foundations are designed post-tension, so it's made to kind of move together rather than one part break off or move more than the other.
Yeah, so that's actually a good thing to bring up. A lot of people think the foundation should never move,
Right.
And it's actually designed to flex.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so I have an engineer friend of mine, and I respect him a lot, and he's taught me a lot about foundations. And he says during droughts, he makes a lot of money, just because people get super nervous, they start seeing cracks, and he comes in and tells them that, we're in a drought, you're going to get cracks, there's just no getting away from it. And so he makes a lot of money telling everybody your foundation's okay.
Yeah.
And so trying to get people to understand that foundations are designed because we have this dry line in Texas. We go 3-4 months without rain, and it actually starts drying 10 feet underneath the foundation. And so what you get what's called edge drying, and it drops. And so our post-tension cable foundations and even rebar foundations are designed to allow the house to flex down. And when the rain season comes back, they move back up. I'll give you a great example. I had my very first house I owned I had this front corner of the house that would move it would drop almost an inch every year. And it was because of the soil. It was post-tension slab. But the very first time I saw it, I kind of freaked out myself. This is what I do for a living.
Right.
And so it was super tight at the bottom. But during the summer, it would open up almost an inch between the brick veneer and the window. And then rainy season comes, and about a month later, that thing closed right back up, and you couldn't even tell. I mean, the caulk line lined back up. You couldn't tell it was ever a gap there. And that's kind of where I started understanding that foundations are designed to flex and then move back into place. So one of the things you have to be really careful with is when you're getting a foundation evaluation, you have to take weather and climate into consideration as well. What time of year is it?
Exactly.
When the foundation's being evaluated. So what we generally recommend on a lot of the foundations is, yes, we're seeing these things, but it's actually something you should monitor. It's not something that you need to drop $6,000-7,000 on right away, you might want to monitor it and see if this is just regular seasonal movement.
Yeah, I like to tell people the door's sticking. Let's say it's summer. Well, in the winter it'll open fine. You know, that's just kind of how the houses move in Texas.
With regular seasonal
Right.
movement.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the cracks come from, is that edge drying effect and things moving. And, you know, a lot of people see cracks and they go, man, my foundation. Well, cracks can come from a lot of different things, like I mentioned earlier with um, heavy vibration, heavy equipment. But what about wind loads? You know, you have this, you know, in Texas, we like these big high roofs, right?
Yeah.
Everything's big in Texas. So we get these big roofs and they catch wind, right?
I mean, in that new neighborhood by my house, 3 or 4 houses that were framed blew over, and we had some heavy winds. So we get heavy winds, and it will move the homes.
Yeah. And so you have a completed home and it's 2 or 3 years old, and you get a straight line windstorm, or even Texas, we get tornadoes.
Yeah.
It may not have hit our house, but it was close enough to give us heavy winds that we had this big cell in the air, and that wind's pushing it around. And those load designs are designed to go push down on load bearing walls, and then you start getting cracks because of wind, not necessarily the foundation, but from the wind.
Yeah.
And so those are other things you have to keep in consideration. Is it may not be the foundation; it could be something else that's causing it.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of other instances that causes foundation, like slab leaks. You know, a lot of water will, you know, expand the soil and push it. Poor drainage is like number one.
Yeah.
And we do find poor drainage a lot. You know, gutters that discharge directly next to the foundation.
How about the cut and fill lots? You know,
Yeah.
you go to a neighborhood and every house has a retaining wall.
Yeah.
You get these stair steps. And so on the cut fill lots, a lot of people, you know, especially on cut and fill lots, you know, your first year, maybe your second year, you're going to get cracks in the home because they went in and disturbed the soil. You have virgin soil and fill soil, and the house has to adjust to that. That's going to cause cracks.
And then also them lots, they all drain the way they drain it. Just like this house, that it goes to the next house, then the next house. You know, it's
So this house is getting their one.
yep, yeah,
Right?
And this house is going to that house. You know,
So having correct drainage is important to make sure it's flowing away from the house.
very important, very important.
Well, this was all really good information. You know, so like to make this kind of like a regular visit, and we can talk about different aspects of the inspections and what people should expect about expect during a home inspection.
Mm-hmm.
But other things like changes in the industry and changes in building concepts.
And code, yeah, building codes.
Yeah. So Scott, thank you for being here. I think this is a lot of good information for our potential clients or just the consumer in general that want to learn something about foundations.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And until next time.
Yep.